Did you know that scientists are on a mission to track down every virus on Earth? And no, this isn't a plot from any science fiction thriller, it's happening right now. They're calling it the Global Virome Project, GVP, a billion-dollar initiative with one bold goal: to identify over 1.6 million unknown viruses lurking in animals and the environment. But here's the big question: can this massive undertaking actually prevent the next pandemic? Or are we simply playing catch-up in a world where viruses are always one step ahead? Stick around, because this story might just change how we think about the future of pandemics. But first, let's talk. What is the Global Virome Project? The Global Virome Project, or GVP, is a global effort launched in 2018 to 2028 timeline to systematically identify and map viruses that could potentially spill over from animals to humans. You can say it's like a virus census, an ambitious plan to catalogue and decode the genetic information of viruses before they even get a chance to cause an outbreak. But where did this idea come from? Well, the roots of the GVP trace back to an earlier project called PREDICT, which was part of the USAID's Emerging Pandemic Threats Program. PREDICT ran from 2009 to 2019 and helped identify over 1,000 novel viruses, including dangerous strains of coronaviruses. However, PREDICT was just the beginning. Later, scientists realized that to get ahead of future pandemics, a more comprehensive approach was needed. Hence the birth of the Global Virome Project. But who's behind it? Now, who's running the show in 2025? The Global Virome Project is a global collaboration involving scientists, governments, and health organizations from around the world. Well, it's spearheaded by EcoHealth Alliance and Metabiota, with major support from the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, the World Health Organization, and several other key players. And it's not just the US. 36 countries like China, Thailand, Kenya, Bangladesh, and Malaysia are also actively involved in collecting and analyzing samples. As these nations, located in hotspot regions where zoonotic spillover is more likely to occur, and so it's play a critical role in identifying high-risk viruses. Now let's see, what is WHO role in the Global Virome Project? So, where does the World Health Organization fit in? Well, WHO is acting as a coordinating body, helping to establish protocols, ensuring data is shared globally, and facilitating international cooperation. The WHO's role is critical because the success of the project hinges on real-time information sharing between over 30 countries, more than 60 laboratories, and research institutions. Moreover, WHO is also setting guidelines for biosafety and biosecurity to ensure that this research doesn't inadvertently lead to the release of dangerous pathogens, a concern that has sparked heated debates in the scientific community. Now let's see, where's the funding coming from? The Global Virome Project is primarily funded by a combination of public and private sector contributions. The major donors include USAID, private foundations, and government research agencies. Additionally, some funding comes from philanthropic organizations and global health funds that are keen on preventing future pandemics. There's also growing interest from tech billionaires and venture capitalists, who understand that investing in pandemic prevention isn't just about saving lives, but also global economy. So what's current status of the Global Virome Project in 2025? It has faced significant setbacks in 2025 due to the US withdrawal from WHO, the US government's freeze on foreign aid, and also there is termination of 90% of USAID programs, including PREDICT, the precursor to GVP, which has crippled its critical viral surveillance efforts. The USAID's exit removes $12.9 billion in annual global health aid, that directly impacting GVP's ability to scale up fieldwork and sequencing in high-risk regions. The US departure from WHO, which contributing 15% of its budget, has created a $958 million funding gap for the 2024-2025 weakening pandemic surveillance infrastructure that GVP relies on. Due to COVID-19, it already postponed its 2020 launch, with reduced funding and geopolitical fragmentation have slowed sampling efforts in hotspot regions like Southeast Asia and Africa, and now to mitigate US disengagement, the GVP is now pivoting toward EU and Asian for funding. Germany, now WHO's top donor, and the Gates Foundation are partially filling budgetary gaps. Even pharma companies and NGOs are investing in pathogen discovery tech in technology like low-cost sequencing to identify high-risk viruses like avian flu strains. With 1.6 million animal viruses still unstudied, it's also about protecting the global economy from catastrophic shutdowns like we witnessed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, let's talk about the tech behind all of this. The backbone of the Global Virome Project is genome sequencing. If you're wondering what that is, it's basically like creating a blueprint of a virus's genetic material. Once scientists collect samples from animals or the environment, they use genome sequencing to decode the virus's DNA or RNA, which helps predict how the virus might behave. Think of it like creating a most wanted list for viruses. By identifying potential threats early, scientists can prioritize which viruses to study further and, if needed, develop vaccines or treatments long before those viruses make the jump to humans. We've seen how powerful this can be. During the Ebola outbreak in 2014 to 2016, genome sequencing helped track how the virus was spreading, giving health officials the data they needed to contain it. Similarly, when Zika virus emerged, genome sequencing was used to monitor how the virus mutated and spread globally. But why this matters? So what's the endgame here? The idea is that by cataloging viruses before they spill over, we can stay ahead of potential pandemics. But it's not just about prevention, it's about preparedness. Once we know which viruses pose the biggest threat, it can be easy to start developing vaccines, targeted antivirals, and other diagnostic tools to stop outbreaks before they spread. But here's the catch. Even if we manage to identify millions of viruses, predicting which one will be the next pandemic, causing pathogen is still like finding a needle in a haystack. Viruses evolve rapidly, and zoonotic spillovers, the process where viruses jump from animals to humans, are notoriously unpredictable. Will it actually work? Now, let's get real for a second. It's not without its challenges. While the Global Virome Project sounds like the ultimate solution to pandemic prevention, for one, there's the sheer scale of the task. Mapping 1.6 million viruses, analyzing them, and maintaining a global surveillance system requires a level of coordination and funding that's hard to sustain long-term. Then, there's the issue of biosecurity. Many experts worry that by collecting and studying dangerous viruses, there's always the risk, however small, of accidental release. Remember the controversies surrounding gain-of-function research? That's when scientists enhance a virus to study how it might become more dangerous. While this research provides valuable insights, it also raises serious safety concerns. But despite these challenges, there are reasons to stay optimistic. The Global Virome Project isn't starting from scratch. Projects like PREDICT have already demonstrated that viral surveillance can work. Over its 10-year span, PREDICT identified hundreds of new viruses and helped prevent several potential outbreaks. And let's not forget the rapid development of COVID-19 vaccines. What took decades for previous vaccines was accomplished in just 11 months because of mRNA technology and global cooperation. So what's next for Global Virome Project? The Global Virome Project is still in its early stages, but it's already making significant strides. The US exit has left a leadership vacuum in global health security, forcing other nations to scramble for alternatives. Without restored funding, the project risks failing to curb the pandemic era it aimed to end. Over the next decade, researchers aim to sequence the genomes of over 70% of the estimated 1.6 million viruses that could potentially infect humans. The ultimate goal? Build a predictive model that allows us to anticipate and neutralize future threats before they can spread. But why you should care? At the end of the day, the Global Virome Project isn't just about viruses, it's about future-proofing humanity. With climate change accelerating and human-animal interactions increasing, the likelihood of future pandemics is higher than ever. The question isn't if another pandemic will happen, it's when. And if we want to avoid another COVID-19 level catastrophe, the GVP's $1.2 billion cost pales against the $16 trillion price tag of COVID-19. Staying ahead of these emerging threats is our best bet. Understanding how projects like the Global Virome Project work can help us all appreciate the science behind pandemic prevention. And if this project succeeds, it might just mean that the next pandemic is one we never have to face. If you're as fascinated, or maybe a little concerned, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Health Bulletin for more updates on emerging diseases, scientific breakthroughs, and everything that impacts our future. Let's stay one step ahead of the next global threat.